Hello, everybody. Welcome to vConnect XP. We are delighted to have you here at vConnect XP, and we are excited to share stories and experience from accomplished founders worldwide, inspiring and connecting you with individuals who share similar interests with you. Get comfortable, relax, and let's embark on this exciting journey together, and let's start our networking and learning adventure. At first, let me introduce vConnect XP. vConnect XP is a series of events where successful founders and entrepreneurs and professionals share their insights, experience, and wisdom. We aim to hold XP events every month. You can learn more about vConnect and our events like vConnect XP and vConnect LX at our website, www.vconnect.pro. Today's guest is Nuno Fernandes. He has been in Zomato, Portugal as the general manager, head of growth, and head of marketing and partnership for about 4 years. He has a strong background in sales and marketing, and surprisingly, he also worked as a translator, and that was very exciting for me. Nuno, welcome to vConnect XP, and we are happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Bainzam. It's a pleasure to be here. It's as you mentioned, it's a lot of it's the story that took us here, and I think that this happens with most of the guests that you also have here, is that there is a starting point, and very rarely the starting point is exactly what then brings you to this exact moment. But then if you look back, you kind of see the patterns, and you see exactly why something made a lot of sense. And here, this part when we mention translation is always obviously one of the most intriguing points of the journey. But there is, in fact, some points that remain very helpful to this day, and that really contributed to my development.
Very good. Nuno, could you please introduce yourself? Who are you? What is your background regarding your education and your early years of professional life?
Completely. So my name is Nuno Fernandes. I'm 39 years old. I'm a father of 2. I studied translation, and that was my original vocation, and that was what I was hoping for, and for a very specific reason. I always believed during my high school years and during my training that translation was a very good place for me to be, because I could work mostly alone. I thought that I wasn't that good at having engaging conversation with people or training someone, so working alone would kind of be the best fit for me. And throughout my college years and my university years, I kind of got convinced about it. So translation was more of a getaway opportunity for me, like a safe spot where I could do my work. But then when I was getting to the final years of the degree, I kind of started going more into understanding different things, discovering different things, and even on the translation bits, getting to know a lot more on the technology side. So there was this revamp. There were new companies blooming, like Unbabel, that at that point was just also starting, created a lot of curiosity to translators in Portugal as well. So that curiosity, I think it kind of took me to the path of wanting to know more about linguistics and the tech side of it. And that was probably one of my first glimpses of what the technology worlds could mean, and apply to a specific sector where I had never seen it before.
Very good. So you've been working as a translator for about 3 years, and then you turned to a customer relationship, position. What happened there, and how did you get that job?
So there's as I was going deeper into translation and trying to understand more, and also trying to earn more in this job in my early days, I came across a job opportunity at IKEA, and that was a transforming point in my life, because when I joined there, I was translating the IKEA catalog. So that was the main point of my year, was translating the IKEA catalog. Obviously, it was a very interesting thing. It was very technical and also had to be very connected to marketing. And again, as I was very technical in my approach, I didn't know exactly what to expect from that job opportunity and the culture that IKEA had. And I remember that there was this one particular thing that IKEA has, because every employee needs to go a couple of days to the store at IKEA and work their customer and their sales skills as well. So those days are mandatory. And at the time, I could see a lot of people getting afraid of it, getting all sweaty before that open day with the public. And I remember that I never thought about me as a salesperson. That was never an existing thing to that day. But the first moment that I put on the uniform and I got on that sales floor, it felt completely like a fit to me. So that was a transforming thing for me. The knowledge that I had the competence to sell, that I had the competence to help people making a decision, that I could influence people in a positive way, and I could make their day a lot better. So that was almost like an epiphany for me, that going from such a technical, such a closed environment, and then all of a sudden being submitted to an environment that was so blazing, that was so intense, and saying, well, I actually feel very okay and very comfortable while doing this. So a lot of discomfort as well as I was growing on that side, but I felt that was very natural. And that was I think that was one of the many turning points that I had in my career. Once I discovered that, obviously it was just a matter of time to understand that the translation side of me was too small for everything that I wanted, and everything that I knew that I wanted to develop myself in different fields. So from then, working HR, internal communication, specific sales components, also relating more to the marketing side. That was really a turning point in my vision and in all of my path to here.
Very good. And what happened in Randstad, Portugal? What was the area of that company?
So essentially customer support. So as I moved on from IKEA and I was starting to launch my own startup and launching my own company, I really had to have a couple of side jobs to make sure that I would be able to support it as I was going. And once again, working in support was something that was natural, connecting to people, solving whatever challenges that they might have. So I was working for one of the largest telcos in the country. And basically it was making sure that the customers would be happy at the end of the day. That would also get me enough energy to start developing my own projects on the side. And funny enough, one of the projects that I was developing at that moment was really on the most touristic side of it, and on the F&B, on the restaurants side as well. So it was already a growing appetite that I had for what Zomato would start to do in a months or years from that point.
And there was a turning point, I think, that you joined Zomato. We know Zomato because actually I know Zomato, and maybe some of our audiences, because our last guest was Miguel Alves Pereiro, who has been working for Zomato for several years. And he told us about Zomato, but I'll be happy if you tell us about Zomato and, tell us what happened when you joined Zomato, and how did you find Zomato? Because it's an Indian company, and it's universal. They have several branches and several offices worldwide. But why Zomato?
That is a very interesting question. So when I joined Zomato, and that was back in 2014, the company had just launched 3 to 4 months before that point. When I joined, what I first thought was, okay, I'm starting to develop my own startup in this space. I don't know Zomato, and I don't know what Zomato is actually doing, but at least I don't know for how long they'll be here, but at least I know that I'll be learning a lot and I can develop my skills. I don't know what will happen after, but at least I'll get some competence, and at least I'll get some really good training and some really good exercises to deploy in my startup after. Little did I know that a couple of months after joining here in Portugal, I would have the opportunity to also launch Poland in the end of 2014. So the company was growing like crazy during those days. So people here from Portugal and from other countries went to launch additional markets. So I saw myself with 4 months in the company, actually mentoring and launching a different country, a different market with completely different needs. So obviously that opened a lot my eyes to what Zomato could be, and especially what were the differences that are really so important from country to country. And I have a lot of questions, and as you can imagine, like I have a lot of feedback on what Zomato could do differently, what could be done. And getting to know a different country was very important for me to put all of my ideas into equation. Shortly after, I had the opportunity to work as product manager directly in India, in Gurgaon, so in the headquarters. That was again an amazing experience for me. I remember getting there in the first day, and again, as you can remember, I have zero training or background in product management or tech whatsoever. So when I got there, I remember being presented to a team of around 50 to 60 developers on that room, and they all looking at me and saying, "Okay, what is the challenge? What are we doing?" So I had absolutely zero preparation for that, and it was one of them. I considered that time in India, so it was a full year doing product management for all of the international markets. And I consider that time to be my own personal MBA. It was the period where I learned the most, and I had the opportunity to work with people sorry, that are so smart, they are so intelligent, they are so creative in the way that they work, that it completely, again, changed my way of doing things. Also, it really it humbled me down a little bit, and all of my requests regarding Portugal really took a different perspective when I saw the worldwide needs and the worldwide adjustment that we would have to do. And the markets such as India, with the opportunities that India has, really kind of put things into perspective. So that was a very interesting learning, and it was one of the most intense periods of my life, for a full year living abroad and learning as fast as you can imagine. That fast-paced environment of a startup, you could have it all there in Gurgaon. That was exactly the place to be.
Thank you. Actually, I was really excited about your term of personal MBA. It is very, a good description of what happened to you when you learn by doing things. But I have a question. Indeed, you have had, some guts, some, personal abilities to do these jobs. But, when we talk about product management nowadays, it's a very complicated issue, and, people need to pass several courses, get some certificates to convince the companies and the clients to hire them. What happened then when the Zomato managers trust you? What did you do to convince them to hire you as the product manager? This is your suggestion or theirs?
It was completely their suggestion. And I think one of the things that I also learned there is that the excitement and the drive that you bring to work is often more important than the technical skills or the technical background that you have. Because one of the things, obviously, there were a lot of people that were more competent or skilled to do that job, but you would have to pick up and you would have to motivate an entire team that would know very little about the different countries. And you would have to create ways to excite them. And you would have to create ways of making them feel part of this narrative. Without that, you are really not managing a lot. What you are managing are more priorities than exactly the excitement and the thrill and the vision of it. So that was the first part. It's a lot about people, and it's more about people than processes. Processes come after people believe the vision, after people understand what they are doing, after every day when they wake up, they go there and they have this, imagine this would happen a couple of times. You would see people coming in the morning and saying, oh, I actually saw a little bit about Portugal. And now I understand that you in that market also like that, or that also could need that specific feature that would also be useful to have this over there. And that type of ownership, that type of vision is one of the most important points at Zomato. And even to this day, even in Zomato Portugal, even being a different entity, we'll come to explain that in a bit. But even as a different entity, this is something that is still very much ingrained in our DNA, and it's something that we very much try to follow to this day. Obviously, the competences that you have are very important, and all of the skills that you have on paper are very important. But what you can actually show in terms of communicating to people, understanding their point of views, and really getting buy-in is much more important than anything else.
Very good. I have, a maybe hard question because you are still part of Zomato. Mm-hmm. But I really want to know what, if you want to compare the culture of Zomato as an international company and Zomato in Portugal as a regional office, so what are the differences between these two offices, and what are the strengths of the culture of the headquarters of Zomato? Because it's very interesting that managers of an international company trust in a foreigner and let him grow and experience new things, and maybe and even accept his or her mistakes.
So I think that again, it's not only my example, but I think that also Miguel's example is also a good one. So you can see already a pattern over here. I think that again, this is within the Zomato's DNA, really getting to know and taking as much as possible from the knowledge that individuals have without being too obsessed with other details. Just the fact to explain a little bit of what the difference is and what Zomato is now doing and what we here in Zomato are doing in Zomato Portugal, just to clarify that a little bit. So towards the evolution of the business, and even when after COVID, you can imagine how much the markets completely got a little bit changed. So as Zomato started doing a shift more into becoming a delivery platform alone in India, even acquired Uber Eats, and that became really their primary business. Here in Portugal, we decided to do it a little bit different. So we did an MBO, and the management of Zomato at that point claimed Zomato Portugal as more of a restaurant discovery platform, as it was in the beginning, but with more focus on data. So again, obviously we do share a lot of things because it's exactly the same starting point. There is a lot of connections between the companies because we developed the same structure and the same path throughout the years. But there is now a different focus from what Zomato in India is looking for and achieving very well as a delivery platform, and what we have here as a restaurant discovery platform, essentially with a focus on data and what that can bring to the restaurant industry as well here in Portugal. And I think when we started understanding the different needs of the different countries, the different markets, the different, even the merchants that we have here on the side and on the other side, I think that was when the click and all of the experience that we have throughout all of this journey really came into equation, and it made sense to make this decision.
Thank you. Nuno, I think Zomato was the place that you discover your talent of sales. Am I right?
Correct. It was exactly there.
And you haven't, any certificate, or you haven't attended to any, educational course for sales and marketing. Yeah.
Yes.
So how did you discover this talent?
So as I mentioned before, obviously there were some points throughout my journey. IKEA was definitely one of them, where I got this glimpse that, well, maybe I'm good. Maybe I can do this. Then throughout of Zomato, there was this, as you were trying to collect information from restaurants, because that was your primary job at Zomato, collecting all of the data and all of the components. You really have to develop a commercial skill to obtain that information, to negotiate with people, and that was something that became ingrained in my daily life. Then throughout the product management part, it was becoming more interesting day to day, and there was kind of unspoken pressure for all of us to do some type of commercial challenges. We would kind of dare each other to say, well, do you want to have that space available? So why don't you go there, and why don't you close the place? So why don't you have a contract with that space for doing delivery, or for having discounts, or for having any type of initiative? And that would be something that would kind of go into the culture of the company, and you would feel that it is a company and a culture that would be very sales driven. There was a sales culture in the atmosphere. I think this obviously gets some people a little bit uncomfortable, but to me, it actually developed and created even more fire to this commercial side. So I remember when I was just finishing my year there as product manager, I was not particularly eager to stay and doing product management for another year. I had other objectives. And I remember when I was just saying, okay, cool, now I'll discover what is my next step, maybe within Zomato, maybe out of Zomato. I was still trying to find out what would be the place. I remember the CEO took me by the arm. He came to me and he said, during those small little chats, and he said, Nuno, like, one thing that you have to understand is for you to have a full vision of the company, you have to do sales. Without going through sales, you won't understand exactly what everyone goes through, what a founder goes through, what the main pillars of the company really go through. So you are coming back, you are going back to Portugal. I trust you. I know you're good. I've worked with you, but I really challenge you to do sales and starting from scratch. And that first day, I kind of took it. I don't know if I took it the best possible way. In that, when he told me that, I was thinking, really, do I want to do sales now? I just been managing a team of 50 individuals for a year, really impacting the product that we are having, and now I'm moving to sales and I'm starting from scratch. And that really got me worried for the first couple of hours. When I woke up the next morning, I was like pumped and saying, okay, cool. Let's do some training. Let's try to understand. Let's try to to get a plan on what's happening. So the minute I got here again in Portugal, I started doing sales from that day. And during the first 3 months, I was just doing sales in those places that usually no one wants to go, just really to show myself and to really do some type of challenge and say, okay, if you don't want to go here, I'll go there, no worries. And that kind of created a feeling that this was always a challenge. Selling was a challenge that I wanted to overcome. So it became part of my life. And even today, most of the times when I describe myself, I would call myself a salesperson. That's my primary core.
Very good. If you come back to those years, Zomato headquarters in India, did you have any mistakes which today you want to avoid doing that?
Yes, a lot of them. This would be an entire hour dedicated to mistakes. But
please tell me about the big ones.
So there were some cultural mistakes there that I did. One of them is I remember when I arrived there, I had this huge bucket list of things to fix, and exactly the reason why that had to be fixed, and it didn't work. And when I saw the context, I kind of felt that I was being a little bit dumb by not having the full context and only looking at it as a one market perspective instead of having the global perspective of a product. That was definitely one. The second one was expecting everyone to have exactly either the same backgrounds or the same ease to speak freely, because again, I was at that time almost 30 or 31 years old, and there was, especially in people that just came out of the university, they were very smart. They were developers that, again, some of the best that I've ever worked with, but they still didn't have a lot of the social competences that really allow you to thrive in your work and to give you all of that capacity. And sometimes I was expecting them and treating them in a way that they just couldn't completely well articulate what they were doing. Obviously, that created some mistakes, some misunderstandings, and it was not completely efficient. I had to take 2 steps back, understand a little bit more of what were the challenges, what every person was really into, what were their interests, how could I get them more interested on what they were doing, making them aware of what was the ultimate goal and making them feel part of it. So when I started giving this context, when I started giving this information, I think that was the moment where I started fixing some of those cultural mistakes that I had in the beginning.
Thank you. There was a moment at October 2017 that you decided to left Zomato, the company that let you grow and give you the opportunity to test some interesting positions. Why did you leave Zomato, and what happened after that?
So 2 main things. The first one is I felt that I probably at that time had done most of the different things and the different departments throughout Zomato, from marketing to partnerships to content to sales. Some of them I had led them, even the projects that kind of started taking shape in Portugal, because Portugal really became a really good test market and a pilot market for a lot of the different projects that the company had. But after a certain point, it really didn't felt that there was a lot more for me to grow within the company. That was one of the points, and I felt that I would never, in a company that had gave me so much, I never want to be just here hanging. That is definitely not the best way to honor a company that has gave me so much and given me so much. The second thing is that I really wanted to understand how could I apply all of the skills that I got during this stint at Zomato, how could I apply them to the public service? And that was, again, that was something that was stuck in the back of my mind for the longest time. So when that opportunity took shape, I really wanted to grab it and to just understand how much of this startup feeling and energy could be injected into the public ecosystem.
And your next two companies, that the first one was not a company, Ministerio,
Exactly.
the Ministry of Justice, and the second one was
Whole 19.
Whole 19, yes.
Exactly.
That was not your startups and your own business, but as I can remember, you told me that you wanted to start your own business and launch your own startup. Mm-hmm. What happened to this dream? Why didn't you start and launch your own startup and business?
I don't have a particular reason for that, but I think that one of the main reasons is that Zomato did way more than what my dream was trying to accomplish in the beginning. So even though I thought that Zomato was just a small part of the process to make me learn more, actually, after all of those years, it really amplified my vision. And I started seeing Zomato with a whole different lenses. And it was amazing to see the entire potential of Zomato. And that's one of the things that the main reason why I'm here today and why I joined the company back is because the vision is so much more, it's wider than what my initial process and my innocent process was back 10 years ago. In the Ministry of Justice, again, was really the feeling of going to a public service and making sure how much of that energy I could inject. It was amazing. It was a great experience. It was wonderful for me to negotiate with more institutional stakeholders. So that was very good. But I have to admit that the speed and the pace is not exactly the one that I'm more used to. So after 6 months, I was already doing mentorship for a couple of companies. I was already getting involved into other side businesses because I was feeling the needs and the challenge for more. So when a couple of friends and people that I knew told me about Whole 19, and at that point, Whole 19, which is a golf company, golf startup, Portuguese one, when the challenge was presented, I really saw a lot of things that resembled Zomato in a way. And I really want to take all of the knowledge that I have and make sure if applicable in a totally different setting, if it would have the same effect and with more capability to apply that, combining marketing, partnerships, a bit of product development, because it was a smaller project, if it would fulfill the objectives, and it did. So it was a very interesting time spent there, an amazing culture, which really drove me to stay there for 1.5 years. And the most important point is that we broke even at the end of that year. So that was one of the most important moments and highlights for the company as well.
Very good. Before going to Whole 19, I want to ask you a question about comparing entrepreneurship and working for a startup. Not most young people, but an important, a significant portion of young people think about building their own business and launching their own startup when they graduate from the university or the college, and some of people don't want to work for others. They just want to work for themselves and build to follow their dreams and build their own organization. You worked for a very big startup and a very large corporate, and you had a dream of launching your own startup, but there was a time that you forget that dream, and you decided to continue your profession in other way. What do you advise for young people at their early years of career? Do you recommend them to start their own business and launch their own startup, or you recommend to work for a corporate or a startup? And what is the difference between these two types of working?
That's a very interesting question. My suggestion would be to do both. When you're fresh out of college, you have loads of ideas and energy that, trust me, you won't have later in your life. You won't have the same energy, even though you try. And that point where you have all of that energy and you have that vision, you have to put it to good use. The thing is that without previous experience or enough experience, you won't know exactly. So you'll have a wonderful puzzle pieces, but you don't know how to put them together. So what I feel and what I would recommend myself today, with the knowledge that I have in hindsight, what I would tell myself is that do bring your ideas to reality. Do try to, right after college, do try to foster them, do try to understand the best possible way in which they can ignite, but do experience working for others and do experience the work methodology, either from, it doesn't have to be a consultancy company. You see a lot of people graduating university going directly to PwC and to Deloitte and thinking that that is the way. For 2 years, it's almost like a model that you see these days. They graduate, they go to a consultant, and then they start their own startup. You don't need to do that. There are a lot of different corporate companies, and even working for the government could be a really good experience for you. It can really be good to teach you things that without them, it's very difficult for you to make a successful company. You really need to know how to be a general and a soldier. And it's very difficult if you're starting your own startup to know that before practice teaches you how to manage that.
Yes, I do agree with you. I personally believe that if you build an environment that others pay for your mistake is great, and you are not supposed to pay for your mistakes, and maybe bigger companies and bigger corporates can help you learn more in comparison with your own company. Okay, and very shortly, in brief, please tell me about the Hole 19. What was that company?
So it's a golfing company. So it helps you improve your golf gaming. So you can be exactly. So, and you need to know the founder as well, Anthony Douglas, was also incubated in Startup Lisboa a couple of years ago. Some years ago, and it's a tremendous Portuguese company, Portuguese startup, which is now on a global scale, and it's a matter. It should be a matter of pride for everyone in the community, because the work that they do is amazing. I didn't know anything about golfing in the beginning, so I had to learn, and now I love it as well. I still suck at it, but I love it. And it was a challenge in the beginning. I believe that I had the right recipe to say, okay, let's go on the path to profitability. Let's do this. I already know, with the experience that I have, I already have this recipe to put it in action. And the first 6 months were exactly the opposite. So most of the things that I thought were exactly the opposite. And most of the experience that I have from restaurants and that I had from non-digital businesses, which was something that could relate from one segment to the other, it almost everything failed. So what it taught me was the ability and the capacity to adjust to evaluate and quickly change my convictions if shown differently. And that was one of the greatest learnings that I had, because I knew that I already had a lot of experience. I want to show how that experience would have an outcome. But when it doesn't, it's that becomes the challenge. And I think that's the point where you really start learning. So you learn that will actually work if it works in this specific way. But if it doesn't, then you have to figure out what's the other part of it. And that was the most interesting part of my work there. So the first 6 months, terrible in terms of what I did. But the last year it was very good, and it's put the company on that path to profitability and to breaking even, and that was very interesting. And at the end of that stint, I really felt that, okay, I know the recipe, but I know that the ingredients now will have to change from one environment to another. That was the learning.
And that was January 2020. And you decided to join Zomato again. Okay, the scene is yours, and you are now the general manager of Zomato Portugal. And I'm all ears to hear about what you're doing in Zomato Portugal, and the way you passed in Zomato Portugal in the past 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm. So the most interesting part is that when I rejoined Zomato, and I rejoined because there were a couple of people asking me to come back and to be able to implement other things that at that point there was, as the company grows, it's normal that the settings also change and allow for different and more innovative things to also happen. So that was a very interesting point. The fact is that I joined in Jan 2020, and you know what happened 2 months after. So you can imagine how COVID completely changed and converted this industry into something completely different. And I have to admit that one of the most important points for me is that since I was fresh in the company, since I had just rejoined, I had the stamina, I had the drive, I had the energy to really help making some sense out of that period. No one knew what COVID had in store for us, like no one. If someone says that now, probably they are lying. No one saw it coming. But at least I felt that since I had exited Zomato, had different experiences, and I had the ability to put them to work, now all of this puzzle in my head was making sense. So we started going into a much more Portuguese-driven initiative. And since COVID was bringing this opportunity for Zomato India to become much more of a delivery company, with the acquisition of Uber Eats, with doing an IPO and all of that, since that was the path, we really saw an opportunity here. And again, because we were fresh at that point, we really saw an opportunity to say, okay, so let's change things and give Zomato more of restaurant discovery platform feel, but at the same time, let's make sense of the data that we are collecting so that we can create one, better user experience. That is definitely one. But second, let's also make sure that the restaurants and the merchants learn more about the tools, the competences, and their business as well. I think that is one of the problems that we have in Portugal, is that we have amazing food. I think we can all agree that the quality of our food is very good. But when we talk about a restaurant as a business alone, a lot of times it doesn't make sense. You as an investor, you probably would not invest in a lot of the restaurants when you looked at their metrics, but you would go there every day to eat their food. And that's a transition that we have to do. So we started focusing a lot more on the data and creating this different experience. We did a complete shift. So by Jan 2021, when we really became Zomato Portugal, we started developing our own technical structure. So a new platform, and we migrated all of the users almost 6 to 8 months after. We migrated the users to the new structure. So instead of having a more delivery focused company, we would have social components, engagement, we would have restaurant discovery, we would have the booking components. And right now, the users are definitely one of the most engaging points of our new structure. They interact with us, they give us information. We listed the entire country. So instead of being very, as our old approach, launching a city, monetizing a city, and when it got to a certain threshold of users and visits, we would go on and launch an additional city. We took that COVID period of 2021 to launch the entire country. So right now, if you go into Zomato, you have 52,000 restaurants active, which is essentially the totality of restaurants in the country. So it's the most updated platform with basically all of the restaurants that exist. And when we started using all of those data points and understanding what are they serving, what is the price that a restaurant is serving that dish, how are they changing the menus, what are the users saying about that, we really became a data powerhouse to help businesses and to help users. And that is much more of our vision today.
Thank you. And actually, as you already mentioned, one of the most terrible things for an industry like tourism happened just 2 months after you joined Zomato Portugal. And I've been in Portugal during the pandemic, and yes, I can remember what happened to restaurants and the severe restrictions to go there, and the bad situation of restaurants. And it is very interesting that you passed those days, and you overcome the problems. What will be your next move? Now you are the general manager and the head of growth of this company. Tourism is very important and interesting in Portugal, and what you are doing now has a very good business model, and it has a concrete a business environment, and I don't know, you are far from your goals, but I'm not sure that I can say it correctly and clearly, but I'm wondering what is your next move, and what do you do after Zomato, and what is the roof for Zomato Portugal?
So I'm starting with the end. I don't think that there is a roof. There is not a cap for Zomato Portugal. I think there is, on the one side, what we are doing here, I think that is very scalable. So I think that is one of this different approach, which is less people intensive and less resource intensive in terms of launching other geographies and launching other points of the world. And I think that's one really good opportunity that we have with a different model, with a different business model. But I think that is one of the opportunities. Obviously, it wouldn't be Zomato Portugal, it would be something else. But I think that is clearly one of the avenues and one of the lines that will be followed. But that is more in terms of width. But in terms of depth, there is also a lot to do. So only now do you have restaurants really understanding, for instance, if you go into booking or the hotel system, it's very normal, it's frequent. You expect a hotel owner to reply to a review that you leave on the platform. It's a given. You do expect that if you give a review, you are bound to receive a reply. In most platforms like Zomato that serve restaurants, you don't see that type of activity. So restaurants still don't have not only have their digital presence well consolidated, but they also haven't gone through all of the basic steps of really managing the business and making sure that what they are promoting and letting users see on a digital front will be their main shopping window for users to convert later. So there's a lot of things that we can do in terms of progressing and helping the industry, giving more data, giving more feedback, giving more information, and really making sure that they can see what the platform is generating to progress their business. Reviews are just one example, but just to give you an overview, we have our own delivery and takeaway services also. We still have restaurants, and even if it's hard to believe, we still have restaurants that submit the menus, and the menus are 300 item long. And when you say, like, we already know, we went through this doesn't make sense. Users you won't get more orders just because you have more items on your menu. If anything, probably the users will doubt, why are you having 300 items on the menu? And most of the answers that you still get is that, well, I'll have more because that's better for the user. And the other platforms are not telling me not to do so. So why are you telling me that? So you still have a lot to do in terms of educating the restaurant, in terms of letting them know what are the best practices, what can work on his favor. And there are a lot of services that can really take shape here. Just one quick stat. In Portugal, we have 52,000 restaurants, from bakeries, pastry shops, restaurants, hotel restaurants, all of it, right? You would think that with so many booking platforms and with a lot of competition, most of the country would have booking capabilities available. But out of the 52,000 restaurants, only less than 4,000 restaurants have online booking available. Even with our own services, different model from The Fork, different model from Cover Manager, and all of the other startups that operate here, different pricings, different business models, and you still only have 4,000 restaurants, less than 4,000 restaurants out of 52,000 using online booking. But if you ask all of your friends and all of the people that you are sitting with, they will all say, if I have the possibility to book online, I'll book it online. The experience of phoning or the experience of waiting for a restaurant seat is not the most amazing one, and it's something that users are not used to anymore. So there is a lot to do in the Portuguese ecosystem. A lot.
Very good. Nuno, this is my last question, and actually I have the very last question. You already mentioned that you have lots of data which can use to help the businesses and restaurants to develop their career. Considering confidentiality, can you please give me some examples of what businesses can do with their data and what you can offer to improve their business using their own data?
Completely. So again, one of the things is really understanding what is the feeling and the sentiment of the reviews that have been written. So all of our tech has been evolving to, and also making resource of the best practice that we have on AI now to understand what the reviews are saying. If a restaurant gets one single review and he looks at it from an individual point of view, what happens is that he will say, okay, it's Maizan that doesn't like this restaurant. It's him specifically. It's Nuno that didn't like that steak, so that's why he's saying this. But if you really show restaurants things in an aggregated form, you take the names away from it and you show the trends, you show the sentiment over time, and you really show the points that are decreasing and the points that are increasing. Once you start doing that and just alone going through his data and probably just comparing with 5 or 4 restaurants that are in the same zone, that is where suddenly the restaurant fades out from that particular view and he really zooms out and he can see the entire picture of what is happening at that restaurant. And that is most oftenly like a wake-up call. And all of that data is already available. What we are making sure that we are using our tools to break down that information and present it in a way that a restaurant owner that is busy with 300 suppliers, greeting people and doing all of it, can quickly understand and digest that information. That is one case, one single example. But another one that I can give you on a total different front is, for instance, when you're trying to open a new restaurant. So imagine that you have a restaurant and you're looking to open a new one. You know a really good place in Príncipe Real and you want to open a pizzeria. But very often, you don't do research. So you don't know how many pizzerias are there. But not only can we tell you how many pizzerias are there, but we can tell you for how long they've been in business, what is the current trends and views that they are having on the platform. And we can also know what is there on the menu and what search are the users doing on that specific zone. So you might find that a particular zone that doesn't have a lot of supply on pizzerias, so you might think that that's a really good opportunity, but there is the possibility that users are not searching that particular location. So just to invert that, the amount of investment that you'll have to do on general awareness probably can be more costly than either changing to another concept or finding a different zone where there is already a higher demand in terms of search when users are already aware and are already demanding for additional options. And as you know, the first 6 months are essential for a restaurant. There's a lot of investment and you can't break even on those 6 months. So every day that you are opening, you are learning, you are discovering, you are adapting. Just by having this data source at the beginning, imagine how much of those 6 months you can take away from the experience and really focus on growing your business. And that is one of the products that has been really picking up in terms of interest.
Thank you very much, Nuno. And the very last question is there any question that you believe I missed to ask? And do you want to add anything to our conversation?
So the only one that you probably missed was asking what was my weight when I first joined Zomato and what is my weight now. So it's 20 kilos extra from joining Zomato. That's exactly what I gained in this journey. That is, so you can see the passion that we have for food over here.
Yes, of course, and this is one of the most common consequences of working in startups. Thank you, Nuno Fernandes. I'd like to extend my heartfelt thanks to him for joining us and sharing his invaluable insights at the event. I'd like to ask our participants to stay connected with us on LinkedIn to be the first ones to know about our upcoming events. The video recording of this event will be uploaded on our YouTube channel in the coming days, so you can revisit and share the discussion. Additionally, a brief script of this event will soon be available on our website, providing you with a convenient resource to reference and revisit the key insights. And thank you all for being part of this experience. And we look forward to connecting with you again. Thank you, Nuno, and hope to see you soon in Lisbon.
For sure. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.